4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Loud Snackers Podcast. This is episode 12. And we are once again welcoming our guest, SooJin Kim.
Yes. She was so great on the last one that we had to have her.
It's weird when you say SooJin Kim because I still go by SooJin Hong most of the time.
SooJin Hong, everybody.
It's like, who is that?
Wait. Okay.
Legally, I'm Kim.
You are legally
Yeah.
Kim, but then, so that's
everything
interesting.
else in my life is just Hong still.
Really? So
Yeah.
do you, like, your friends consider you a Hong?
Yeah.
Okay, because do you identify closer to your family than you do to, say, Isaac's family?
Of course, because...
No, like, because you know how, like, some women, like, really, dive into
well,
their
so
husband's family.
I'm totally in. Like, I love his family. I love his sister and brother, dad so much. But at the same time, like, I know my family so much, like, obviously longer, that I have to work extra hard to put in the effort to get to know Isaac's side of the family.
Yeah.
And so I am legally Kim, and I will be because I think because we have kids. Maybe if we didn't have kids, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I would... maybe fully have changed my name.
Do you think it's unfair that it's expected that the woman change her name?
I mean, it's just, it does. I don't think anyone has to change their name if they don't want to.
It's a choice.
It is definitely a choice. And I think it just made a lot of sense for me to change my name to my husband's name, legally. And then which I'm all for. It's just, everything else in my life, I still go by my maiden name.
So I asked that because I talked to my sister about this recently, and she's married, and because like every once in a while it'll be random, but like maybe a couple times a year it'll just be me, my sister, and my mom and dad, who this was our family growing up, and like our kids will be around, but it'll just be the four of us, and our spouses are just elsewhere, right? I'm like, oh, it's us again. Just like the four of us.
Wow.
So how did that happen, right? But it happens like not a lot, but it happens like to the point where we can notice it.
Yeah,
This is happening, like often enough.
Yeah.
So I asked my sister that question during one of those sessions recently. I was like, oh, do you consider yourself like a Kwan now? Because her last name is Kwan now. So
in front of your parents?
Yeah. Or like, are
you one of us or not?
Yeah.
No, because and then she was like, oh, I'm definitely still a Choi. I know that's my last name.
She's definitely the favorite child.
Probably. She got favored a lot more than I did.
I see why. That's a good answer.
But yeah, so it's because I know that she loves her in-laws.
Yeah.
Then, it is definitely, there's that disconnect a little bit.
If it's so hard, your life would be so hard if you didn't love your in-laws. Like you married this person, you married into the family, that person also married into your family. You just have to just find a common ground to get to know them, love them, because they're going to be a part of your life.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Jen's maiden name is Shin.
Yeah.
Right. And then I remember when she changed, so she decided to make the announcement over like dinner over at her parents' house. So we were all sitting there. She's like, I got a surprise for everybody. So she whips out her license.
Yeah.
And she shows it to me. Yeah. I'm going like, wow, but I can't overreact because there's all these Shins around me. So I'm going like, yes, but then like her dad looks and, I could tell he's like, man, like, okay, that's great, and I feel like, I could definitely feel that, it's
Do you
like.
think it's that important though? Like, let's, when if Jaden and Jackson ever get married and they're like, I'm gonna take on a different last name.
Yeah.
Would you feel hurt?
Oh, different last name?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think for me, because of the family environment that we grew up in, we take great pride in like the history of our last name, where it comes from, and and
Really?
just the way like our
Korean thing.
Yeah,
Really?
just the way like our grandparents talked about our last name. So like growing up, that's what was like important to us, right? Yeah. So it's a little different than if it wasn't. So I think that I think it's still important to me for sure.
Maybe because I am a girl, and I think it's like already expected that I'm not going to carry on the name, right? Yeah. So there's the expectation is not there,
right?
And so I could see that it could be a lot of pressure for Korean men to keep the last name going.
So, but you have a sister, right?
Yeah.
So you could see that dynamic.
Yeah.
Whereas like we're just brothers in the house.
Yeah.
So like we don't get to see the other perspective.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
So like for me,
Yeah.
I grew up, I'm Korean, but like I'm so American
Yeah.
that would not bother me that much if my children decided to take other names. Like
Yeah.
I don't know why.
So do you know the history of your last name?
No. Well,
See,
I know a little bit. But the thing is, like, I think that if for my parents' sake,
Yeah.
I would have them keep their Korean last name, right?
Uh-huh.
But other than that, I wouldn't really
Yeah.
care that much.
Yeah.
It wouldn't affect me to that point.
Yeah, I mean, names, I don't know. We grew up in, like, my parents, like, my mom changes her name, like, her first, legally, very often. Yeah.
This sounds like so much trouble, though.
Yeah, it really is. And I don't know why, but she just doesn't, she's like, yeah, it's okay. She changes her name pretty often.
It's not that it's not okay. It just sounds like it's a lot of. You go
It
through
is a
of
lot.
trouble.
It is a lot because she
legally changing.
Yeah,
it
like
is
social security.
That's
Yeah.
a process.
Yeah, it really is. So I don't know. For me, it's like, oh, a name is a name, but I wanted to keep my last name because my website, things like that, like work related.
Yeah.
It's just easier. I feel like because my name SooJin is still like. I don't know. There could be a lot of SooJins like as graphic designers out there, especially like Korean.
Do you get that name? Like, does that get mixed up a lot in your life?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I
SooJin?
know a lot of SooJins.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually
But
do too,
I don't
think.
know
Oh,
any
okay.
SooJin Hongs.
Oh.
But I do know SooJin Kims.
You know, because Kim and
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why, like, just career-wise.
Okay, so it's mostly just for career. That's
because I already I already have a network and
Mm-hmm,
and all of that, so it's just easier.
You want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
So my legal name is Joseph, right?
Yeah.
Joseph Lee. So when I was in like first grade, we get to all pick a Spanish name for our Spanish class. And
In first grade, you took
no,
Spanish?
maybe first grade. No, it was like around like first grade, second grade.
Wow,
It was just like
that's so advanced.
Yeah, it was like we learned it early or whatever.
It was like a bilingual class, like a dual immersion. That's what it's
Oh,
called.
wow.
Yeah.
So we went around, and up to that point, people still in Korean they call me Jose, right? Because that's what my grandma named me. So, and I was born in Argentina, and that's when it happened. So when we came to the States, like before I was 1 year old, that's kind of what stuck with me. That's in our house. That's what they call me. So it was my turn. I said, I'll go with Jose. You know, and that's and since then it's stuck like Jose. And I didn't know it was like a Hispanic name.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I just thought it Jose sounded better than the many Joes that there were in the class. You know, so I'm like, I'll just go with Jose because there's too many Joes.
Yeah.
And literally every time like I'll walk in the room, I'm like, hey, I'm Jose, and they're like, whoa, okay, you're Asian, you know.
Yeah.
So I definitely that kind of stuck with me for a long time in my life.
Do you? So like, I know that some of us call you that, right?
Right.
Well, everyone here does. But then, like in your work environment, do you prefer Joe?
Everyone calls me Joe or KAIROS.
Okay, so which one do you prefer? Or do you not have a preference?
Well, it's a different feeling actually, because if I hear KAIROS, then that means that they know me from that, you know, from that
that makes sense.
environment, you know. And then when they call me Joe, I feel like more like, okay, so you knew me from after this point, like period of my life, because I didn't really go by Joe officially, even though it was my legal name, until I came out here like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So I've been going by Joe now that I think about it. I've been going by Joe the past like almost a decade.
Okay,
But prior to that, it was Jose,
Interesting.
pretty much.
So like
That's interesting.
at your work?
yeah,
Who calls you Joe?
It's all Joe.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
it's majority KAIROS.
Okay.
And that's, I think, the industry way of like respect. It's like, hey, you're KAIROS, you've done this, so you're KAIROS.
It's like by your.
Where did that name
Right.
come from?
KAIROS, it means in God's perfect timing. And so, yeah, when we came out here, I mean, we faced a lot of different, challenges. I mean, a new environment. Jen and I, we just got married. I still remember we got married and we sublet because we made that decision to move to LA.
Yeah.
But when we did that, we didn't tell anybody. So at the wedding, it was like super emotional. I remember because we were the only ones that knew that we were going to move.
Oh, that's crazy.
So just seeing everybody in the room, we were like, wow, this might be the last time,
Wow.
And so we made that move. We came out here, took that big leap of faith. But what's crazier is that Jen at the time, right when she entered her 20s, she became a professor at a college.
Oh, yeah,
and then I had the highest position over at a company, an entertainment company. And they try to give me like a raise 3 times, trying to keep me to stay.
Yeah.
Jen, of course she was working her way up, and so we literally dropped everything and decided to start from the bottom, basically, start over completely. And I remember everybody at the time, I'm sure, like, when it happened, they probably thought we were crazy. But we made that leap of faith, took that jump, and, many things have happened leading up to this point, and I think it just it was fitting. It's just God's perfect timing.
That makes sense, yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
Okay, so I have a friend,
Yeah.
and their last name is Dong. D-O-N-G.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, that's an unfortunate last name, right? Especially with...
Oh, I know a couple.
Yeah, right? So, but then like...
It's Vietnamese, right?
No, it's Chinese. Well, my friend is. Maybe yours
okay.
is Vietnamese. But yeah, the ones that I know are Chinese. So I was like, oh, that's kind of an unfortunate last name, right? Especially for U.S. I'm sure in like other countries it doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
But out here. So in my mind, I was like, if it was me
Yeah.
and that was my last name,
Yeah.
I would be okay giving my kids a different last name so that they wouldn't have to suffer that.
It builds character, though.
I guess.
Yeah, it
but
really
then,
does.
Okay. So, but then I was like, man, because I'm sure
Yeah.
as a child, when your last name is Dong, you probably suffer through a lot growing up.
Well, you couldn't go the other way. You couldn't help him by making the middle name big.
But it's a girl. A lot of their kids are girls.
You know what I feel like though? We just got made fun of a lot because we were just Asian.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so.
That's true.
Did you have a lot of Asians in your school?
No, but I was never the type of person to be affected by anything. So I didn't realize until, like, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I guess that could have been racist.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what racism really was because we did have a couple Asians, but we were the minorities for sure. But Downey, it's predominantly like Hispanic, Latinos. And so, I got asked like, oh, are you Chinese? And I'm like, no, I'm Korean. And they're like, what's that?
What's
that a lot.
Yeah,
No, that happens a lot.
Yeah. So I guess
North
it's-
or south.
Yeah, north or south. A lot. But I think it's just ignorance. So I just didn't let it bother me at all. But I can see why it could have gone a lot further, the racism, but it didn't for us.
Yeah.
For me.
Because I think I've said this on this podcast before that I definitely got that when I was younger, but I didn't realize what it was.
Yeah.
And so I never thought that
That's interesting.
anything about it. Because I know that they experienced it really strongly growing up in Chicago.
Not like exactly against us. I mean, and Sam kind of brought up some examples even at school of what the coach said and stuff. But
Like adults.
Oh yeah, like when I was in football, I remember like during drills and stuff, he would like call me Wang Chung and stuff like that. Yeah. And
no.
yeah, I mean, I guess he would be canceled in like today's time.
For sure.
Like for sure, he'd be without a job maybe. At the time, I was just kind of like, yeah, I guess I'm Asian. You can make fun of me.
I guess I'm Wang Chung.
I guess that is my name.
I didn't know that was my name.
Yeah,
So Wang Chung's like, well, he's got to be talking to me.
Yeah.
And
get
at
it.
the time, like
sucks.
I could see how he was trying to press my buttons, push my buttons and try to get me like annoyed or whatever. Like I don't know what he was doing.
Why? Yeah.
Maybe he actually does have a racist gene within him.
Probably.
But nobody was really penalized for that back in the day.
But but like I always think like, yeah, there's racism, but also like my grandma was really racist.
Yeah.
Like our family.
Yeah, Koreans are racist
Koreans
as hell.
are
So racist, especially towards, like-
no, literally, they are racist against any other race besides Koreans. And even with the Koreans,
They hate
they're-
Japanese
They
people,
hate like certain areas
Clans.
of Korea, right?
Yeah.
So like, I'm not that. I was never that phased by racism because it never really affected me. So. A lot happens and stuff, obviously, but it just never really like got to me because I'm like, I always thought, wow, my family is so racist. So I can't be bothered by the, this or whatever at school because my grandma is like saying crazy things already.
Yeah, it's like cringy, like some of the things that the past generation says about different races, and they think like no one can understand them, so they say whatever they want. It's crazy.
Well, my grandma, when she was alive, my cousin is like engaged. She's engaged to a white guy, and they've been together for so long when she was alive too. So she would say like, "Hey, he's so good looking and nice for a white guy." She's like, "Tell him that." So it's just like
she
that.
would appreciate.
Like
he's going to appreciate that I feel this way.
He needs to know.
He's better than
that,
most white guys.
So like even things like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like so bad. Racism is so bad in my household. So like outside of my house, I'm like, okay, like that's not as bad.
Right. And I think today's generation is particularly sensitive to ignorance, actually. It's not really racism. Like, racism has to have an intention of hatred behind it. It has to have, like, a demeaning, like, you are not us, we are better than you type of motive behind it.
Yeah.
Some people just don't know. Like, there's been times, even when I was in high school, like, some guy, he came out to me, he's straight from Europe, and he came up to me, he's like, "Hey, you're a chink." And I was like, what? And he was like, "You're a chink." But then he had a smile on his face, right? So I was like, what? I was shocked. And then later on out in the hallway, you know, I like threw him against the locker and all that. He's like, "I am." No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that. But he came up to me later. He's like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know.
He had no idea.
I just thought like I was saying you're Asian. I was trying to connect." And I was like, "How do you connect with me? You're not even Asian. You're like the whitest guy I've ever seen in my life." But after that, we became friends, actually. And if it wasn't for me just understanding the situation, like he just didn't know. You know, like what if people just don't know? You know?
But so this is an interesting question, right? Because like Sam and I, we grew up in an environment in school where there's just predominantly just white, right? So like, you know, we grew up with just people like you know, we could have girlfriends that are white. We have friends that are white. You know, and we're always around white people. So when I hear this narrative where it's like, oh, Asian guys are with white chicks, he's winning. You know, or you know, like, and so I'm like, that's interesting. What is that about? You know, so why is that the Asian guy cannot get a white chick?
Yeah, I think that's
like
weird.
Back then or now?
Or even actually, like a few years ago, I was dating this white girl.
Yeah.
And then I was at this Korean bar and I met this a few of my friends' friends who were Korean dudes.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how it got down to it, but then like my friend was like, "Oh, he's dating a white girl." And then the other guy was like, "Dude, you made it."
What?
And I was like,
that's so weird.
"What did I make?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand that. Because it's my personal opinion. Like, you know, everyone is beautiful. Like, you know, if you're beautiful, it doesn't matter what your race is. But like, it's my opinion that Korean women are like the most beautiful. Like, in my opinion. And so it's like, you're a Korean dude, you probably have a Korean wife, and you're telling me that I made it because I'm dating some white girl.
That's
like,
interesting.
I think it's because of the I don't agree with this, but then I'm just like trying to think of it from their perspective. It's like the idea of, in general, most Asian girls, they either date an Asian guy or like a white guy, right? That's what I've seen. I don't know, I might be wrong, but but it's not usually the other way around, right? Because most white girls are not interested in Asian men, because I think even statistically, they're the least sought after males.
Well, not after BTS.
Yeah.
Maybe, but then I guess before BTS, they were like the least sought after males. Right? So I think that's probably where it's coming from. Like the idea that Asian men in general are
we're like super
least,
unattractive.
Like I think on all the, I think there was like a statistic on like, maybe it was Tinder or something like that. But then I think there was like something about that where Asian men were usually the most overlooked.
If that were to be true, that's very interesting because it's almost like rock, paper, scissors. Like Asian men are the least sought after. But then like in some ways, Asian women are the most fetishized, the most coveted. But then like we're usually the only ones with the keys to the Asian women.
Yes.
So we win.
For sure. All around, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know that was like a thing.
I was reminded because
I've heard that before. For sure.
Because I was like, I think I was looking through TikTok, and then this couple, it was an Asian guy and a white girl, and the comment section was like, "Oh, this Asian guy's winning." I'm like, "What?
Oh,
you know,
interesting.
What are they winning?
What is he winning?
Yeah.
You know." But yeah, I guess that makes sense though. It's like,
do you think it's like where they grow up, like where they're from?
No, I think it's
everywhere.
I think that it's mostly
idea.
It's mostly in the highly populated areas. Because like when you're saying like if in Chicago, it's the only thing, like there are no Asian girls. It's just these two people are the only Asians, so you do date a white girl, right? So then it's normal.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are in like here, like when you're highly popular, where there's a lot of Asians, a lot of white, a lot of whatever. So like here, probably New York, San Francisco, whatever, you'd probably stay within your own race because that's usually what happens.
So so you had Asians in your school, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't have that many, but I definitely had more than you guys, and I don't know if I had more than you, but I had.
Where did you grow?
La Cañada.
Oh, you definitely had more than me.
Okay.
Well,
So-
this is like
Yeah.
you know, a long time ago though. So like now I know there's a lot more Koreans there now.
Yeah.
And it's not La Crescenta, which had a lot of Koreans.
La Cañada also had a lot of Chinese.
No, I didn't have like I knew one Chinese person in my grade. I had one Japanese, like two Japanese people in my grade.
Well, so if you saw,
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
like, if you saw a Korean guy with a white girl, would you be like, wow, like, would you be impressed by that? Yeah.
No, because I went to college in Arizona, so like it happened more
More out there.
that I saw that more often out there. I mean, it wouldn't happen all the time. But I do because all my friends in Arizona are Chinese. I have very few Korean friends out in Arizona, so like I did see like some Chinese people with white people, and it didn't really like. Maybe initially I was like, oh wow, that's crazy, right? But then now it's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I think what that guy said to me that night, it actually indirectly like or subconsciously bothered me quite a bit. And a part of the reason is because he has something ingrained in him that somebody instilled in him through generations perhaps that there is a race that's superior. Like that white people are better.
But they are. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I mean like, you know, some people would definitely think so.
Yeah.
But for him to have bought into that,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
that bothered me a lot. And to think that there's a lot of men that do think that way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's sad.
it's very sad, I feel like, because for us, like having grown up in a white town,
Yeah.
you hang out with white men, white women, you
Yeah.
realize they are human beings.
Of
like
course.
we don't think about them as white people. We think
Yeah.
about them as just like, oh, that's Greg.
Yeah.
You know, like. But if you grow up in a Korean only town or whatever, and then you see like a pretty white girl, you're like, oh my gosh, it's an angel. You know, like,
Yeah.
and it's just, yeah, but there's pretty Korean women, pretty
Yeah.
black women, like pretty
Yeah.
Indian women. Like,
Yeah.
they're all pretty people, but why do you consider one like the,
Yeah, that is weird.
the ultimate?
I
You know?
agree.
Yeah.
That is weird.
Yeah, I've dated a lot of different races. So I don't know. For a while, I didn't want to talk to Korean guys too. Like I made it a point. I'm like, ugh. And then so I purposely went in another direction. Like purposely.
What was the motive behind
Just
that?
like there were a lot of reasons that came up. I don't even remember. There's no specific reason. Just a lot of. It was like a very short while. It wasn't like even a year. But I remember. It was like. There was a part of me though that I knew eventually if I ever wanted to be with somebody where I can really connect with them, with my family, it would be easier for everybody if I just dated a Korean guy or somebody that knew the Korean culture.
For sure.
Just for the people, like my parents. So I knew that it was just like a short while, like just trying it out. But there's always going to be that thing where it's like, oh yeah, if I want to make everyone else around me happy and comfortable, I should probably be with somebody in the same like culture and race.
Oh, interesting. So do
Yeah.
you say that really influenced your decision?
Yeah, like later on, the people that I dated in my like 20s, like mid 20s and stuff. Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
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 I think that mattered for me too, eventually. Yeah, it made me start thinking like, okay, like I want my family to have great communication
Yeah.
and have great connections and like
Yeah.
relationship with one another.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad one time he told me like, you can date whatever
Yeah,
race
yeah.
you want,
Just
but
marry-
if you but you can also marry whomever you want as well. But just so you know, if you bring your white wife home,
Yeah.
all I can say is, you hungry? Bye. That's it.
That's funny.
And like it's funny, but it's
Yeah.
profound because I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, like
Yeah.
it's true.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Like they're not gonna have a relationship.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, even because my mom doesn't speak English. She's lived here forever, and she's lived in Orange County, so she didn't have to. You know, like she just did everything. Like she goes to Bank of America with a Korean teller. You know, like, so everything in her life is just, she doesn't need to speak English. She can understand it and get by. But to build a relationship with somebody that my significant other, I knew it would be really difficult to be with somebody that didn't understand Korean.
So that's where my life is a little bit different because I know that most of my friends experience the same thing as you. Both of my parents can speak English. My mom can speak perfect English.
Oh wow!
My mom could, like, when you call her, she sound like a white girl on the phone, right? Whereas my dad definitely has
Karen speaking.
Essentially, like it would sound, well, not Karen. Let's use a different name, but but it would just sound like, you know, like a normal American person, right? So no accent.
No
at all.
accent.
Yeah. So I had a different, because of that. I was very more American, than most of.
That's something that you didn't have to consider, right?
Yeah, I suppose. So because you kind of mentioned that, because like when I was in Arizona and like the vast majority of my friends out there are Chinese, but like it's a very different lifestyle that they have out there than LA. And when I moved back here after college and working there for a couple years, I remember it was weird.
Yeah.
Like I remember feeling disconnected from my LA friends for like a good 6 months to like 6 to 9 months or something like that. It was kind of weird. I was just like, I have to like reacclimate myself to this way of thinking. Like it's just different. It was just a very different way. Cause like, I can't even really put my finger on what it was, but it took me a while. Cause like, I didn't even really hang out with my friends out here except for like a select few until like 6 to 9 months later. Like I hung out with my friend that I knew from Arizona. That's who I hung out here. Yeah. So it was just weird. I did.
You felt like they were too Korean?
I don't know. I guess like too Korean LA. It's like a specific.
You're just too much in a box.
I don't know. Like
I know what it is. Yeah.
What is it?
No, I've
like you understand what that feels like.
Experienced it. Yeah. I didn't really experience that until I went to college.
Okay.
Here, I went to art center.
Okay.
And a lot of, LA girl or people from Korean people would go there. Even people that graduated college in Korea would fly over for another degree. For another art degree. And I remember I've never been around so many Koreans in my entire life like that. And so I remember I told my mom, I need to get better at Korean because I need to like communicate with them because I look like a fool if I like don't know how to, because I know how to speak to like my mom and like my family, but it's obviously so different when you have to like speak to like your peers in Korean, because I never had to do that. Growing up, I had Korean friends like in high school, middle school, elementary school, but we never spoke in Korean. It would have been like, what are you saying? Even though we know what they're saying. So when I got to art center, I was like, oh shit, I have to speak Korean, or I have to like, I have to understand what they're saying. And so it took me a while, and there was a girl that spread rumors about me because they said she's lying that she doesn't speak Korean because look how she knows how to speak Korean. But I really practiced so hard. Like, and so
what a terrible rumor.
Why would she spread that rumor?
It was just like, she's a liar, like, why is she doing that? She's like acting like she doesn't know how to speak Korean.
Of all the rumors that you could spread, she chooses that.
Yeah. So it was
harsh.
so dumb. It was like she connected it with like, she's trying to act cute. Like she's trying to get like the guys, whatever. I'm like, oh, no. So like, they know how to spin it around. Like you said in your
room, you're like, the way to get guys is to act like I don't speak Korean.
Yeah.
That's the way to their heart. I know.
Yeah. And I was
Perfect.
like, what?
That'll
and
work.
so those kind of things, like, I was like, I knew how to speak Korean for sure. I didn't know how to speak to my peers in Korean until I got to college. And then I feel like a lot of LA people, LA Korean Americans, they do both. They do like a lot of the Korean and they do like the American. They do like all of that. So it's different.
Why do you think like guys, especially Korean guys, like hearing oppa?
Like aegyo and stuff like that?
Aegyo and stuff, right? Because that is kind of a strange thing if you think about it. Like, and if you ask someone that's more accustomed to the culture in Korea, they prefer that. They want to be called oppa, right?
But that's like, I guess if it's in Korea, that's like just the norm, right?
Right. What girls call
older, Yeah.
No,
Men
I
or
dated a
brothers.
guy right before I met Isaac. We were both living in New York. He grew up in Korea, and I remember I called him oppa for years while we were dating. And I remember like some people were like, why do you call him that? Because we were like oppa in English, and then we were talking English, you know, like.
Yeah.
And then like I don't know. That's just like kind of what I just started calling him.
Yeah.
And then, so it's interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
And I
I
don't
never
know-
called anyone else oppa.
Yeah.
Even if they were, like, Isaac is older than me. I would never call him that.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like
Just
you have to
zaddy.
be engraved.
That was kind of weird.
awkward.
You know. No.
it's awkward, but at the same time, once you establish that, like, that's what you're going to call them,
Yeah.
you just keep it going, though.
That's
yeah,
true.
it's what you start with.
Yeah, it's
what
that
you
makes
start
it
with,
natural.
yeah.
Because like I call my wife honey, right?
Yeah.
That was really weird when I started.
Yeah.
But she preferred that. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay. So the first, because I was used to like, babe,
Babe.
or baby or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But then she wanted me to call her honey. And then I was like,
Yeah.
so the first time I did, I was like, that's so weird. I feel like a
Yeah.
50-year-old man, right? So like, but then after you do it
Yeah.
enough, it just becomes normal.
Yeah.
But like the first week, first month,
Yeah.
first while, it felt
Yeah.
weird. It felt
Well,
really
Yeah.
weird.
I don't know why guys like it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Do you like it?
I don't know.
like I like when my
I feel
tongsengs
like
call me
Sam
oppa.
might.
No, I don't like it too. I mean, like, I like when my tongsengs call me oppa, especially if we're close. And I don't know why. I think it's like,
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean?
No, like
even
girls,
that,
like,
girls.
yeah.
Or hyung? Do you like
Like
hyung
girl
and oppa?
girl.
Or
I do like
speci-
hyungs too because it just shows that like I look up to you like a big brother, right?
Yeah.
But you don't find that expression in the English language,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't be like, man, I respect you so much,
Yeah.
so I can call you something to
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah,
that.
interesting.
So yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
your story about like not speaking well enough Korean, like
Yeah.
I'm so bad at Korean, like so bad at it.
You're
I'm
faking
like,
it.
I'm the
Yeah.
faking it.
The girls.
Spread that rumor right now.
He's trying to be cute right now.
Yeah.
Trying to be cute. Call me oppa.
Dude, I hate going to Korea. I don't like going there
Oh,
because
okay.
I'm so bad at Korean. Like I can't.
Why don't you learn?
I don't know. Like I never like
Just
because
turn on
you can remember
Netflix.
my parents
Watch
speak,
all the Korean
My
drama.
mom speaks perfect English. I never was
Had to, really, yeah.
I never had to
Never
do
had
it,
to.
Yeah.
and I was never around enough Koreans that spoke Korean that
Very
I needed to.
interesting.
The
Yeah.
first time I ever was in a position was when I did property management in K-Town, but even then I worked with mostly like non-Korean speaking landlords, and there was one that I was in charge of. And luckily, his property was like all the way in the Mojave Desert, so I didn't need to deal with him that much. But when I spoke to him, I was like, "This is so weird." He's like,
So there's not an ounce of you that like wants to get better.
no, not even like a little bit. I just don't care.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, then that's fine. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
need
it's
to.
fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. I know it's fine.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm very comfortable.
So you don't
with
want
it.
to go to Korea, and you rather go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, like
Yeah.
it just because like every time I've gone, if I go with my parents, it's great.
Yeah.
Like if I go with my family, it's a great time. But anytime I've gone by myself, it's like I just don't
Yeah.
like
tough.
everyone
That's
here
fine.
is looking at me and
Yeah.
they
That's
know I'm Korean.
Yeah.
Judging.
But then they can tell I'm foreign, and then the fact that I suck so bad at this, and I'm
Yeah.
like, God, I hate this
That's
so
fine.
much.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I don't like this, and like
Yeah.
I don't even like because I know. Okay, so I don't even know what to do in Korea. Like I know you can party and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and like maybe there's sightseeing and stuff, but like I don't understand what to do when I'm there. So I get so like, and then I get really stressed out about it, and
Yeah.
I never get stressed. But going to Korea stresses me out. I don't know
Just
why.
don't go.
I'm
It's
not
fine.
gonna go.
But like I think
I
it's
love
really
Korea.
important for Koreans, like in my opinion, to at least understand it. So that's why I made it a point to Isaac and we only spoke to Jordan in Korean for the first 3 years of his life. And at preschool, when he spoke, like when he tried to speak English, they're like, the teachers would come up to us and ask like, don't you speak English at home? Because he sounds like he doesn't know how to speak any English.
Yeah.
So it's so funny because we made it like a point
Yeah.
to only speak in Korean. And it was hard because,
I bet.
yeah, Isaac and we speak to each other in English.
Yeah.
But after having, and then he got older and then it was just easier to explain
Yeah.
so much faster
In
in
English,
English.
for sure.
So we just slowly dropped it. But I make it a point for my parents to only speak to our kids in Korean, not broken English, or maybe because my parents are not great at English, but I want them to hear it constantly
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hear it at home.
like Grayson might be better at Korean than me.
Yeah,
right now, because
that's fine.
his
Yeah.
daycare speaks Korean. So
Love to see him like correct you.
Yeah,
It's
he's
like,
no.
I can understand because like I
Yeah.
can understand Korean like
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even that good at understand Korean, but I can understand it okay. Like when
Yeah.
I'm with my family, it's usually fine. But then like when it comes time to actually say a sentence, like conjugating any of like
Yeah.
the verbs or whatever, I'm just like, okay, and I have to like really think about it. I'm like, okay, how do I say this? And I'll say it in some stupid way that barely makes any sense at all.
Okay, but check this out. If Korea right now played the World Cup, would you root for U.S. or Korea?
Ooh.
I would definitely root for Korea.
North or south?
But see, isn't that strange though? We would all root for Korea.
Okay, so like when Parasite won, like
Oh,
Bong Joon-ho,
yeah.
when I was so proud.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was unbelievably proud. So I am proud to be Korean.
Korean.
It's just I know I'm so bad at it that
Yeah.
it stresses me out.
Yeah, you know, my cousin is like that too, and he regrets it. He's 30 and he regrets it so much. He's like, I wish I learned Korean when I was younger and tried to, because he did go to Korea and he's like, I was so lost, and he said he was so frustrated at himself.
Yeah.
Because he clearly understands it, but it's so different trying to communicate and build a relationship. So he really regrets it. And
Yeah.
so it's never too late. I think
I
you
guess.
should. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't have that drive to actually.
you don't have to do it, but
Like,
I imagine it to be like when we were in China. It's like
Oh,
we
yeah.
were trying to get boba,
Yeah.
and I just saw Sam like doing
I got
hand
by.
motions.
I got by.
He didn't want cold or hot. He wanted like lukewarm, like
Okay.
you know.
Oh,
Okay, so when
that's
you go to China,
hard.
if you go to a restaurant,
Yeah.
you go anywhere, they
Yeah.
give you water, right?
Yeah.
But it's piping hot. It's boiling water.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's middle of the summer, super humid.
That's really healthy, though.
yeah.
I can see
Yeah.
that, but you go in there, you're just like, I want some ice water. They're like, huh? They're like, ice?
Like cold, like steel server.
Sure.
They're just like, like,
Yeah.
and then I learned that it's bing shui.
Yeah.
Bing shui.
Oh, bing
So
shui.
you just go in there like, bing shui. They're like, oh, okay. And they give it to you.
You know what they do? They bring more people out to and have you do it again.
yeah.
So
They're
one
like,
time,
look at this guy.
That
you know?
actually did happen. So one time I went,
so
we went
funny.
to boba. We wanted to
Yeah.
get boba, and I ordered something, and they're like, they said something, and then they were
Like, check out this guy.
well, they first asked me like, do you
He
like
doesn't
cold or hot?
Aw.
And I was like, huh?
You got to show what you're doing.
Middle. Okay. And then
Oh my
the cashier just like looked at me, just started busting out laughing, right? And then she's like, and then she went in the back and got a coworker, and he's like, one more
Check
time,
out
one
this
more
guy,
time.
yeah.
I just said, okay, this. I did the whole routine again, and they laughed. They already understood the first time. They were already gonna make
So-
it, but they
Yeah.
had to have me do it
Of
twice.
course, it's so good.
So at some point, like everybody was laughing with no boba. Like they were
I'm
just
like, I
laughing.
paid.
boba?
What's going on?
I do want to learn how to speak Chinese or Mandarin. Is it
That's-
So
Mandarin or
I
Cantonese?
actually
hard.
can't speak Mandarin because I learned in college.
What?
I learned that like I took that for like 4 years. In college.
That's probably way
amazing.
harder
Yeah.
than Korean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I took that one because like
That's
I
more
got
useful.
I had a minor in East Asian studies, so
Oh.
I took a bunch of years of that. So that was
Yeah.
interesting.
So you're fluent.
no, I can. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm conversational at best.
Oh,
At best.
wow.
Like no, not even that. Like I'm just okay. I'm just okay.
But can you
Okay.
walk into a boba shop and be like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want cold, I don't want hot, I want
In the
Middle.
middle.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. In the middle.
You just gotta do what's
that ain't we're at the same level.
There needs to be a reality show
Yeah.
where two people speak completely different languages, and then they have to go on a date. That would be
Ooh.
insane.
Oh yeah.
There would be so many,
Yeah.
miscues, and
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting
That's a
to
good
watch.
one.
we said it here first.
Yeah.
You got
Let's
it.
do it.
Let's set it up.
Yeah.
Let's just make the show. We'll just find people. We're like, okay, you speak
Yeah.
what? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, let's go.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
We'll just start with English and Korean because since we probably know enough of those people, and then just film it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they can't speak English. I feel like that's universal, so
Yeah, you
everyone
can-
will
yeah.
figure it out
Yeah.
at some point.
So it's got to be
It's
like
got to be like someone from Africa and then, someone from China. That would be wild,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Something that I wanted to bring up that it was about marriage, like something about what you're looking for, and then we were talking briefly about like we're looking for someone that's of the same culture.
Yeah.
Eventually when you find your partner. And as we got older, we started to realize that's a little bit more important than we thought.
Yeah.
How important is religion in your spouse? Like having the same religion, having the same worldview in essence, you know, like...
I mean, not only spouse, I think in just a relationship dating, I think for me it was important because Sundays, it was hard because I go to church. I always went to church. And then I remember asking my ex-boyfriend, like, hey, do you want to go to church with me? And it was like, oh, maybe like next week. And then so I would skip that week and then we would go next week. And then so I would have to like sacrifice and he would have to sacrifice going next week. And so not only like in a spouse, but just in a relationship, I think it's important.
I think it is probably more difficult. I don't know if it's a deal breaker, but it is difficult. It's definitely difficult for sure.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that's a deal breaker?
I'm not.
What is a deal breaker for you?
So for me, if
Unibrow.
I can be easily fixed.
Uniboob.
Down the middle.
in terms of like religion, I think if it was a person that was anti going to church and stuff, or like
Antichrist,
like did not want me to go, that'd be a problem. But then if it was like, yeah, fine, you go, and like but then like personally, I would much rather prefer. Much
But it's not
prefer.
a deal breaker.
I don't think it's a deal breaker, but like, but then the thing is, I'm also speaking without any experience because every person I've dated has been Christian. So like, I've been lucky in that sense.
So I just want to say, because my parents, bringing my parents again, my dad's family, they were Buddhists, and he was like atheist, did not believe in any religion. And my mom, her dad, my grandfather was a pastor. So she grew up literally in the church. Like that's where she lived her whole life. And when she got married, they didn't allow her to go to church. They like my grandma, my dad's mom, would actually physically abuse her if she went to church. This is in Korea. And she was so traumatized by that because it's just, that's what happened. And my dad did nothing, right? Because he didn't know the importance of religion and he didn't, so for me, I think it's a deal breaker just because they have fought so much about religion and what's going to happen on Sunday, like on a weekend, like things like that. That's a forever thing, So I think it's definitely a deal breaker. They don't have to be super religious because I've dated people where they went to church, but they were not like speaking in tongue, but
how do you test that? It'll be wild.
So are you fluent in any other language, like only in tongues?
Or are you rapping? I can't tell,
Yeah. But so it's not a deal breaker in that sense, but it is a deal breaker if they're not religious. They don't go to church. They don't believe in God because I've seen what it can do.
So like once again, that makes sense when you say it like that because I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's like super important, at least for me, that we are of the same faith because like what you do on a Sunday is super important. Like, how you spend your time and whether you spend that together or not is an essential thing for sure. There's also the aspect of when times get tough, what do you turn to? What is your core? What do you rely on at the core of yourself? And if you're a religious person, when times are tough, you rely on your God. You rely on your faith. You rely on, when you don't have hope and there's nothing to have hope in that is, seeable at all, you have to rely on something that's unseeable, but you still have faith in it. And so if there's somebody that is without faith and then there's someone with faith, when times are tough, they're just going to be like, I don't get you.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like that's such an important thing. And for sure, I'd imagine I'm the only one without experience, but once you enter marriage, there's going to be tough times. There's going to be times when things are heavy, and so for me, I think that was like a non-negotiable for sure. I used to have like really trivial non-negotiables, like she can't be a smoker. Like all that stuff. It's like, it's just, I mean, of course, it's healthier to not smoke, but
it's
like
not a deal breaker.
To see that as a deal breaker, I see how short-sighted that was. It's really about these core issues.
And this is like less heavy, but like, what was the deal breaker when you were dating somebody? Like for me, and this is like so stupid now thinking about it, but it was nose hair. It was like if there was a girl, like we're talking, right?
Yeah.
And I see nose hair, I'm like, ooh, like I think that's it. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. That's a wrap.
It's like
that's
I
a
gotta
wrap.
go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's like I just saw something, but I gotta go to the
Wow,
bathroom.
really?
Yeah,
Like, let's say you dated for like a year. You really built a strong relationship, and you noticed it after a year because she forgot to like trim. Would it be a deal breaker?
Oh man, I would just tell her like,
Right?
you gotta cut that thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I think initial deal breaker.
He was gonna say, I was gonna just tell her we're
There's
done.
varying degrees of deal
there's
breakers.
an initial deal breaker.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
Sure.
Yeah.
the initial ones are interesting.
Yeah.
What is one of your initial ones?
I don't know. I don't really have that many.
Like, what if he's rude to the waiter?
I'll just be like, "Are you having a bad day? What's going on?" I usually call out people and ask, like, there has to be a reason.
Yeah.
If he's like, no, like just goes off, I'd be like, okay, calm down. Like he has anger issues. I would just like think, oh, he's just like an angry person. I cannot like maybe probably not make it work. But I know a lot of my girlfriends are like, he can't be short. He can't be this. You know, and it's like a lot of physical things.
Yeah.
I never had that. I dated a really short guy.
Yeah.
Like I'm 5'7". I dated a guy that was 5'3".
Yeah. And he's really fast. It's all good.
No, he was the nicest guy. Like the nicest guy. Like one of my best friends actually before we started dating. And so like nothing like that. It was really I don't remember because it feels like so long ago, but no initial deal breakers, I think. There's like more like long term, like, hey, like we're fighting a lot.
Yeah.
And we're very bad at communicating.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's going to work. Or I just don't think that like I see a future and like, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Or I wanted to date in someone new. There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a horrible person.
No, I mean this is just the dating stages, right?
Yeah,
So,
these are
like,
dating stages.
So,
yeah.
like, yeah. However, for you guys,
Yeah.
what would be like?
Initial deal breaker?
Initial deal breaker. Yeah. Like you said, it is different. It's tough.
I feel like guys, you have to be attracted to them, right?
Physically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
But then like
Guys, that's
so
super important.
because like I guess I wouldn't because like since I'm on a date with them, I'm already attracted to them.
You think so?
Well, right?
Because you asked them.
Yeah.
Have you ever
See,
gone?
I don't think that's true for the girls.
Yeah. It's not.
That's true.
It's
That's
not.
true.
So, but
then
has
that's
a
like-
girl ever asked you out
Yes.
and you gone on a date?
No.
Oh, you just reject.
I there was a couple times where girls were interested in me, and then I contemplated it.
Yeah.
And some of them I was physically attracted to,
Yeah.
but then it was because of like personality reasons that I was like, no.
okay.
And that they weren't bad people at all.
Right.
But I was like, I don't think this is gonna work.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. So in that sense, if I go on a date with somebody,
You're already attracted
I'm already
to them.
like attracted to them in some way, shape,
Yeah.
or form, right?
Yeah.
Like they've already passed a couple of my tests, I guess.
Oh, but what are those couple tests?
I don't know.
Don't
like,
make it so hard.
Yeah.
Sounds like a hard test.
Yeah.
like I made it sound really intense. It's really not that intense. Like, I guess I just have to find them interesting. Like,
Okay.
And then I just need to be physically attracted to them.
Yeah.
I can just see them like going like, did I pass?
Yeah.
Would you say physical attractiveness being important to a guy is equivalent to how important it is for a girl that the guy is funny? Like,
No,
what do you
because
think the equivalence is?
I don't know. I think for us, like, I'm not speaking for every woman, but women, I feel like it takes time for us to feel that attraction. Obviously, we can see a guy walking down the street and be like, oh, that guy's really good looking, right? But I think it's different because a lot of the people that I've dated, I was never initially attracted to them. I got to know them, but also a lot of my girlfriends are with people that are really not funny. So I don't know how important
So
that is.
so you bring that up. Why humor specifically?
Because I always like heard from, you know, like some friends that are girls or whatever, they're like, he needs to be funny. Like it needs to be funny. Like there's like, oh, he needs to be a certain height for sure.
Yeah.
You know, there's that. But then like, if you give him like an ultimatum, like, all right, would you rather have a guy that's like really good looking or like really funny? They'll always usually pick funny.
Yeah, funny over height, funny over smart, funny over
Because that just goes to show you that it's not about the physical appearance for girls initially. Like I think it's about like how we feel when we're with that person, and how much the person is pursuing and persistent is like very important for girls too.
I think that poses a problem when a girl asks a guy out, because like I have no problem with who asks who out, but the thing is the dynamic changes. You go on a date after a girl asks you out, like she's the one that's kind of like pursuing like she has to kind of make the date fun somehow. And like I've been on a date where a girl asked me out, and I'm just like, I feel weird like not being the one that's trying to be entertaining here. Like you're trying to like start these conversations with me. I'm just like, something's backwards. You know, I'm just not used to it. Maybe it works for other people. But
That's interesting. I've never asked a guy out.
Okay, so that's a little flex right there. I never had to. I just walked by them.
I think it's just like I've dated friends because like we've built that relationship. So I didn't need to ask them out. I think it was just one of those things like, oh, like I think we like each other.
Yeah, it just kind of like grew into a thing.
If anything.
That's nice. It's like the most natural.
It's natural, but the breakups are the hardest, I think.
Ooh, yeah, it changes the whole friend group.
Yeah, it really does because it's like they have to pick. And you kind of have to like let go.
How was that? Like, what was the worst part?
Oh gosh. I really think my high school one was the most traumatic because the guy that I said like I'm still friends with and I think highly of him still. But I found out because we were so on and off. Like I dated another guy and, you know, like he was like talking to this other girl. But at that time, I was physically with him. And I grew up with this girl, and I remember he was in the shower or something, and I was watching MTV. What's it called?
Cribs?
No. TRL. I think it was TRL.
TRL with Carson Daly?
Yeah, I think it was TRL, right? Something like that. Something on MTV.
So
and then Justin Timberlake's Sexy Back was on, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he got a text. And it was like the flip phone. And I was like, okay. And then I saw the text. And then it was from that girl who I was friends with. Like I knew her since I was in first grade, elementary school, like one of my first friends, right? And she said, oh, Justin Timberlake is on and I'm thinking of you, right? And I just like closed it. And I just like, I didn't know what to think. I'm like, okay, because maybe
his back's not that sexy.
Like, I was just like, I didn't know what to think, right? Because at that time, I had dated other people too, and he knew about, and it was like kind of bad. But anyways, long story short, we actually had plans to meet her and her other friends to play tennis that night after that. So I went, everybody knew. I knew that everybody knew except for me.
Wow.
Everybody knew. The one that I got, like, the trauma was not him or her. It was my other best friend. She knew. And I knew she knew.
They left you in the dark.
Yeah. And I knew she knew, and she didn't tell me. And that's when I was like, I'm so hurt. I'm not hurt by these people because it's like, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But her, I knew her since kindergarten. She was my best friend, right? And he dropped me off at home. And I was like, you know, I saw the text and I was like, I don't want to see you anymore. And he's like, I think he was like trying to be like, oh, it's nothing. And I was like, I don't care if it was nothing, but you know, I think we should stop seeing each other or hanging out, whatever I said at that time when I was like 17 or 16. And then they actually started dating and they dated for years, like years. So I think like breaking up with a friend, the hardest was, I had to let go of my kindergarten, like childhood friend for a while. I didn't talk to her for years. And that was honestly the hardest because everybody else, like they would bring it up like, hey, like, you know, whatever. They would pick sides and like they would be awkward. I didn't care about anybody else because I was so sad to lose her. But we were fine after that. Like we talked about it. She was actually one of my bridesmaids in my wedding. And so, because she's my oldest and like friend, but at that time that crushed me in that breakup. Nothing else, just losing such an important friend in a breakup. So yeah, that was hard. But we're still friends, so it doesn't matter.
That's good.
I think that's incredible how you can allow those like paths to cross again.
Yeah.
Because for me personally, it would never cross again, you know?
Yeah.
So like I just because for me, like I think it's like, and maybe this is not a good thing, and I don't think it is, but if there's something that, let's say, someone did to me,
Yeah.
like I think that's it. Like it's like, you know, that's where it ends. You know, and I think this was more, and I don't know if I really necessarily believe, you know, second chances are something that's, you know, that's really given to just everybody, you know. But it just really makes me think, because it's like, wow, like that actually takes a lot, and for her to stand at your wedding, that also shows just how when you overcome something, you guys can all celebrate things together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You know?
I saw the other girl pretty often after that. Like years later, I knew that they were together, and I would like run into them, and they would like ignore me and whatever. And then after they broke up, he would like come up to me and say hi, and I just acted like normal, because I like genuinely, I still think he's a great guy. The girl, on the other hand, though, she came up to me a couple times and was like, "Oh, I heard you were talking shit about me," and I was like, "Yeah, I was," you know? And so that's the thing. Like, I'm very honest. If she wanted to hear it to her face, I would have told her, but I just didn't have the opportunity. So I talked
Right.
about her to other people. But if she wanted to know all the things that I said, I was like, yeah, I'm ready to tell you.
Yeah.
And then she was like, well, I just think that's not fair. I'm like, okay, well, okay. So,
That's not
you know,
fair. That's
so
interesting.
yeah, like she's just like, why would you do that? And blah, blah, blah. And so, you know what? I think I give second chances because I'm very open and honest, and I allow them to just say their piece too.
Yeah.
And it's not the other, like my kindergarten friend, my childhood friend, it's not her fault. She was just in a really sticky situation, you
Yeah.
know? So I couldn't put all the blame on her. It was just like, I needed time to heal.
Right.
And I knew she felt really bad about it. So I wanted to forgive her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
yeah. That's good. You did.
Did we hear everybody's, what is it? Like deal breakers?
Oh.
Oh yes.
Well, I don't really have one. Like I didn't really. It was just like, oh, I just need them to be.
Attractive?
I guess I need to be attracted to
Okay.
them.
How about this?
And-
There's like
Interesting.
fuzzies.
The hair really bothers
And
me.
it's dark.
And it's dark.
No,
He wouldn't be attracted to her, right?
I mean, like if it was like pretty like
Yeah.
intense,
Yeah.
then yeah, I probably wouldn't have asked her out in the first place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
But she's like super pretty, but with a mustache.
Like, is it like a hardcore mustache or is it just like fuzzies?
Oh my God.
Like, is it like
It's-
dark hairs?
You can twirl it.
Yeah. You,
Oh my God.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have asked her out.
Okay, what about this? Okay, like let's say during your dating times,
Yeah.
right? It was a girl that was pretty
Sure.
enough by your standards.
Okay.
But she was hilarious.
Okay.
Okay. Or there's somebody that's just like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anyone so beautiful before in my life.
Yeah.
No personality.
No personality, no sense of humor.
no sense of humor.
Like you'll crack jokes and she'll be like,
one
"What do
for
you
sure.
mean?"
The
Yeah.
first one
Yeah.
for sure. 100%.
Okay, or what about like, let's say you date a girl and then, you know, she turned 21 and she started drinking, but she's the most like belligerent, worst drunk ever.
That's actually my deal breaker.
Oh, okay.
Belligerence once inebriated. Because when somebody changes when they're intoxicated,
Yeah.
they're drinking for a reason other than fun. They're drinking as an escape. They're drinking for some weird motive. Like there's something dark in there that needs to be addressed. And there's something that I don't know about in terms of like, you know, like what makes them them.
Yeah.
And it's not to say like if they were to mess up and say something crazy or do something crazy while drunk, I'm just going to be like, I'm done, you know.
Okay,
Like, but
so it's not a deal breaker,
it's
but
not,
it's important.
It's not like immediately a deal
Yeah.
breaker, but then the thing is, it's a troubling red flag for
Yeah.
sure.
Red flag.
Yeah.
Red flag.
But it's like
flag.
is
it's like the reddest flag. It's like, you know, it's like the most
deep
commie flag.
red.
deep
Yeah.
crimson.
Yeah,
there.
deep red.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I've definitely had that experience with past girlfriends where
Yeah.
like it will be like a great, like a special occasion. Like
Yeah.
it's like Valentine's Day or like some special thing where
Yeah.
we're going out and like
Yeah.
we have a few drinks or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she turns into somebody different and just starts like
Yeah.
arguing with you about nothing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like I'm like sober enough, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like what's going on right now? You know, like did I come here with the same person? Like what's happening? So, and it makes you feel kind of lonely actually. Just like I thought we were kind of.
Why don't
in
you just
this.
get drunk with her then?
It's like, oh, forget it. I'm just gonna get belligerent with you. Let's both go to jail. But yeah, there's that. That was the first thing that I thought of when you actually brought that up. It wasn't necessarily like a physical trait or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I haven't really experienced that. Most the girls that I date never really, they're real lightweights, so they never got like just a couple drinks and they're out. So
see, like I get surprised by the stuff that Isaac deals with because I'd like to drink and I can hold my liquor pretty well, I think, in my opinion. And so, but there are days where I'm tired or there's something on my mind and I will like be like, oh my gosh, why did I become that person? And I regret it and I apologize. But it's just, you can't help it sometimes because like you said, there is a dark thing that's lingering over. You don't realize it. So that's good that you know that there's like something and you can just make it a point to like ask. Like he's like, hey, is everything okay?
Right.
And I'm like, I don't, why? And then I tend to like be open up about it. But yeah, it's not all the time, but there's definitely moments where I like catch myself. I'm like, oh my God, I did not want to become that girl.
Wait, while
that
you're
is
drinking?
crying.
While you're drinking. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then it's always something, like you said, like deeper. Like I didn't realize that I'm stressed out. And I had a couple of drinks that normally I would be okay. But that, for some reason, that night, it just like triggered me. And I become this person that I didn't intend to be.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to act like I'm, an angel when I'm drunk either. Like there's been, I mean, for the most part, 99% of the time, if I ever do get drunk, which is actually pretty rare.
Yeah.
But if I get drunk, it's just all fun and games.
Right.
But there has been several times where I like wake up, I'm like, that was regrettable.
Yeah.
Like why did I lash out? Why was I like angry for somebody said this? And like normally if I was sober, I'd be like, cool. But it's not the situation at hand that causes that sort of like lashing out. It's really like some built up frustration that happened during the day. So that's why I say like it's not a deal breaker necessarily right away because some people think that when people get drunk and they get belligerent, they think it's their true colors are showing.
That's true.
But that's not really the truth. It's the true color of what they're really feeling at the moment.
Right.
But it's not really like who they are.
Right.
It's like they might be great people. It's just like they're having a terrible day, like you mentioned. Maybe you had some hard times.
Yeah.
And you're letting it out that way. But there's that.
Never done that. That's
really? I started doing that more after having kids. And then like, when you're pregnant, you don't drink, obviously. You shouldn't drink. And so, right? I don't know.
Shouldn't.
And then and then I would go out for the first time in like a year after being pregnant. And then after having the baby, I finally go out. And those nights, it is scary because I cannot control like the emotions that built up, like the tension within myself. And I do become a person that that I didn't know that was building up. But I need those nights, honestly, because that tension, like it needs to come out. And sometimes it can't come out over like therapy or whatever. It just needs to come out one night. You just drink and then you cry, you get emotional, you say your piece, and then you're done, And that happened for both pregnancies where the first time that happened with Jordan, everyone's like, oh, are you okay? And then now that my girlfriends have been having like kids on their own of their own, and I've done it for winter, they're like, get it. I get it, girl. Like, just say your piece, do it, whatever. Like, and so I'm not that person, but I think that person builds up over time sometimes. Like, yeah,
as long as it's done in a safe place. It's like, if you're drunk and you're in a place where like, how am I going to get home? It's an issue. But if you're like, all right, I already know this is going to happen. I'm going to get home safely. It's like, I don't really see why that's a problem.
And then Isaac doesn't say anything either. I think that's the biggest thing. I think if I had to defend myself or say like, I'm doing this because of X, Y, and Z and explain what's going on, I think I would feel more lonely. But he's like, yeah, it's okay. You should go out. Like you should,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
So he's supportive of my crazy nights sometimes, like, because he knows that it's not all the time, but it's definitely needed for me.
I think that's important to have friends and like to go out and hang out with them.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's like
But I
very
think
important.
that is an important thing that you touched on. Like, otherwise you would have felt lonely. Like
Yeah.
if he was misunderstanding or
Yeah.
not willing to understand.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's really the thing. It's like if somebody gets belligerent, like
Yeah.
I'm talking about my ex-girlfriend when she
Yeah.
was belligerent and stuff, I felt lonely.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't come here with this person.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what's going on right now?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, now that you're going to get married,
Yeah.
would you consider doing marriage counseling?
I did. Yeah.
No, like
Moving forward.
continuously.
Continuously. I'd be open to anything that would like help us, build our relationship,
Yeah.
better. And do you think marriage counseling is like
Yeah.
the bee's knees?
I think,
The feast.
I think it's really good because eventually, like, if you intend to have kids,
Yeah.
that time of you guys just being together slowly changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's hard to make time for each other. But then if you have a designated time, even if it's an hour, like ours is an hour every other week, we make it a point, obviously, to talk about ourselves and like each other. And we talk about things that we normally wouldn't talk about
Yeah.
because we don't have time.
Right.
We don't have energy.
Yeah.
We don't want to. We don't want to hurt the other person. And I feel like it's super crucial for any relationship to have a medium that knows both of you, who's not going to take sides, who will just listen, and you can listen to the other person, they can listen to you, and it's just an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that I was hearing because like right now we had like a premarital counseling type of situation actually with my pastor from Chicago, and he does this thing where he kind of like walks you through. And he's very open about his marriage, like, talks about the experiences. It's not like one of those pastors where they share nothing about themselves and like you have to share everything.
Yeah.
He's very open. And it was great. And that is one of the things they touch on. And basically the whole message that he was trying to say pertaining to that is like the funness of the relationship of you guys being together, the novelty is a novelty for a reason. It's a new thing, and new doesn't stay new. New kind of fades off, right? So once things start getting busy, once the novelty of things begin to fade, then what will you do? You have to be intentional then. Because right now it's easy not to be intentional because you're already inclined to do those things,
Right.
So what will you do?
Yeah.
And you have to sometimes schedule things in. And,
Oh, for sure.
And they were like, that might sound unromantic for me. I'm just like, that's actually pretty romantic to me. Like, like if you are intentional about making time for your partner, I see that as a pretty romantic thing.
Yeah, it is. It is really nice. It is really special. But then it sounds funny when you do it. Like, because Isaac and I already established that night, like dinners are not our thing. We can't. After being like working all day and then taking care of the kids, we cannot make time for each other at night. I specifically cannot. And so, and I always feel really guilty. And he's like, I don't want you to feel guilty. I feel guilty that you feel guilty. And then, so we're like, okay. She's like, why don't you guys hang out during the day? We're like, oh, I didn't know that was like a thing, And so we make it a point to hang out during the day. And I know like even like intercourse or whatever, like people think, oh, it has to be like this nighttime thing, right? Or like you have to sleep next to each other, physically be next to each other at night in order for that to happen naturally. Of course, but we have kids. Like we're tired.
Right.
We can't. Like, so we make plans to hang out, even if it's like 15 minutes. Even if it's just like a short thing, even if it's like once a month, like it's like we look forward to it. And, so it doesn't have to be this like romantic thing, getaway, but 15 minutes, whatever.
I think it's that pressure because it's like, oh, you should want to do it automatically all the time.
Oh no, but nobody wants to.
But that's the thing. Like, I feel like that's what society kind of feel like, especially for newlyweds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what you believe.
Yeah.
Initially, you're
And
like,
if you lose the feeling, you have the wrong person.
then you're like a bad person, or like,
Yeah.
this is not the right person for me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it is important.
Well, like
to
some
have
people,
that.
it does happen naturally.
Yeah.
Like I've talked to Jen about this, and then I was like, we've talked openly about these kind of things, and then I was like, there's something wrong with me. She's like, I don't think there's anything wrong. I just think everybody's obviously different. And so like sometimes like you just are more awake and wanting things at different times, you know, that's not the norm. And so like even things like that, we would have never really established that if we didn't have a marriage counselor. We would have just felt bad.
Right. Yeah. And one thing that, you know, something that I heard from my pastor as well regarding just like marriage and stuff like that. And of course, from a pastor's perspective, like sex belongs within the marriage, right? So like he was talking about that and he was like, look, when it comes down to it, and the wife was there as well. You know, it's like both of them are giving their perspective. Men want it basically all the time, right? It doesn't matter if they're tired. Like, doesn't matter if like, oh, I got to get to work in 5 minutes. Let's do it real quick. And it's just like, they're just like, they want it all the time. Women, you can't expect the same. Like that they're built differently. So they want it if they're in a specific place of security, maybe, you know, like a place where they're very comfortable and they feel loved. Like, you know, they want to know for sure, like, this is, you know, the right time and place, right person. Like, and he was like, that's why some women might not be in the mood, whereas a man is just like, I don't care, I'm in the mood. You know, it's like, and of course I'm generalizing here, but like that's generally the truth.
I get it.
And so, yeah, I could definitely see that. And I could see how it can become a problem if they don't understand that. Like if they're just like, well, aren't all people supposed to feel the way that I do? You know, it's like, I kind of see that from a very, a minor perspective on what guys do to try and impress girls. Or it's like, or what girls do to try and get guys, right? Because like girls, when they try and get guys, if they do it the wrong way, they do it in a way where I'm going to treat a guy the way that I would want to be treated by a guy. So they'll like pursue the guy. But then the guy's just like, I don't want to be pursued. Like I'm trying to do the pursuing, you know? Or, you know, another way is like a guy is going to try to be like very like sexually advancing toward a girl or whatever. He's like, that's what I would want, you know? But then like the girl's just like, that's not what I want. Like I want to, you know, like feel secure and like feel like you're like really loving
that you
me.
want me for me, not just
exactly.
for sex.
And so like they just see only a mirror. It's like, well, that's what I would want, so I'm just going to do that, you know? It's like, but even though they're equal, they're like inversed. You know, it's just like it's a different balance.
Over time, marriage is just like logistics. You know, like, do we have time for this? You know, and so like that's why I advise everyone to get marriage counseling, because I feel like you make it a point to talk. Because it's so easy to not talk about real stuff, talk about logistics, like who's picking up the kids, what are we eating for dinner. It can even be like, oh, like how's your day? Good. That's it. Or like it could be like, oh, I'm mad at my coworker for this, but that's it. And then so when you do marriage counseling, it's like, oh, it helps Isaac say like, you know, I was really upset when this happened years ago, you know, and I'm like, what?
That's
I don't
powerful.
even remember that.
Yeah, right.
But that's the difference between us. He's like, you know, when this happened like 3 years ago, I was like, no. and then like she'll say, the marriage counselor will say, okay, well, why don't you replay what had happened, right? And he'll tell me, and then it gives me it gives him opportunity to say it. And then it gives me an opportunity to apologize and how we can move forward, right? And so,
because he's holding on to it for
he's holding
3
on.
years.
He definitely holds on because he doesn't want to hurt my feelings.
But then but in
that's
the end,
the issue.
it hurts the relationship.
That's why. But then that's why it gives us marriage counseling gives us a time and platform for us to say those things that we wouldn't normally say. And I feel like it's super crucial when it becomes like later on, even if it's like a year of marriage, things just become like, you know, mundane, right? And so it's really great when you find the right person, obviously, to do marriage counseling with. It could even be like, your church pastor or whoever, but just getting somebody that knows you and your spouse is like, I think it's so nice.
It's true.
Yeah, like one thing, you know, Lena and I pray together, like for our marriage. We're about to enter something that's quite serious, you know, so one thing that we do pray about of several things is that we would not fall too much into just like logistics. Like that we wouldn't just be so busy trying to survive and live and trying to like support this like family structure we're trying to build, that we lose sense of like this relationship that we have. Because like of course we're naive. We don't know what's about to happen. But then of course, like we know in theory the pitfalls, you know?
Yeah.
And so we're like praying that wouldn't happen. But yeah, I understand that like that is, you know, a very common thing.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely can't prepare for the worst. Like you can't just be like, oh, this could happen, so let's prepare for that. But it's like, just try it.
Right.
There's nothing you can lose other than like, maybe you realize you guys are really not compatible after years of being together, right? Because I knew that there could be is possibly a point of marriage counseling where we could have gone through that, like especially last year with Isaac and I, like it was like, oh, this is hard. Am I the right person for you? And like I would have dreams, like vivid dreams of like fast forward like years later, right? And Jordan walked in. I was in a really nice penthouse. It was like such a vivid dream. I was in a nice penthouse with a nice view. I was alone and I felt alone in my dream. And then the next day, Jordan and Winter, they were teens, came in. And Jordan and Winter, they greeted me. And then Isaac came. And he came in with his new wife.
Wow.
And he looked so genuinely happy. And I haven't seen, at that time, we were all going through a lot, especially Isaac was fighting through a lot. And I haven't seen him look that happy in a very long time. And then I woke up in the middle of the night and I wrote this all down, this whole dream. Because I was like, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to tell him this. So the next day I told him, I was like, hey, I had this dream. You looked so happy. And I wonder, maybe you could be that happy with somebody else. Maybe I'm holding the happiness away from you, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, why would you have that dream? Are you uncertain about us? I was like, of course. I'm uncertain about majority of things in my life, you know, especially that doesn't just involve myself, right? And then he's like, I don't think you should worry. You're trying the best you can. You're like, that you are the person that I want to be with, right? And so even though he said that, I was like, nope, I saw you. You looked so happy in my dream. So even with marriage counseling, when we started, I was like, yeah, I can get to a point where I realize like, maybe I'm not the right person for Isaac. Not that Isaac's not the right person for me, but maybe I'm just not the right person for him. You know? And then, but as we started marriage counseling, after every session, we come out and we're like, I love you. Like we really love each other. And I feel like the love is growing more and more as time has been progressing with our counselor. Because there was when I went in thinking, yeah, I can realize that I'm not the right person for him.
Interesting.
But he disagrees.
Yeah, he disagrees.
Yeah.
So that's why it works out.
Yeah.
So that's why like I feel like we were making it work. But then he said something to me where he was like, you're going through so much because of me. Just forget about me. Just think of me as a crazy person and just move on. Like, just go about your life. Just go about your day. You should be strong enough to do that. And I was like, but that means I would give up on us and you. I would lose hope on you.
Right.
And he was like, and I think he needed to hear that too. Because I don't want to give up on him.
Right.
You know? So I think it was really necessary for us at that time to get counseling.
It seems like you guys don't want to burden each other,
Yeah.
but then you can't deny the fact that you guys are now tied.
Yeah. I think that's what's so hard for us specifically because every session we have, I'm like, oh yeah, this happened, but I didn't want to tell him, so I don't want him to feel bad. Vice versa. And she's like, you guys, this is like, you guys care about each other too much. You guys care about each other's feelings too much.
Yeah, worried too much.
You guys are
hurting
worried
each
way
other.
too much, right?
Yeah.
Just talk to each other about what it is.
Because it's like meeting every 2 weeks, holding on to something for 2 weeks is a long time.
Yeah, but we don't have time.
I
That's the
know,
thing.
yeah.
Like logistically, like we don't have time to sit there for an hour, stop our day, you know, and do that. It sucks, but that's the reality, right? So for those 2 weeks, we hold on and we bring it to, you know, our counseling session and we talk to each other and we come out feeling so much better.
Yeah, that's good then.
So that, you know, there's that saying, it's like, it never gets easier, it just gets better, you know? And I think, like, you know, in many cases, not just with, I think, marriage, but also with, like, kids.
Yeah.
As long as, like, you know, you have that kind of support system and, you know, you have that kind of guidance, it does help for sure.
Yeah.
And on that note, I'm going to book my first marriage counseling, so I better get on out of here.
I just want to say it was amazing to just hear how things progressed from, dating and guidance from how that, transitioned to marriage and just, and so I think, another really, really good episode here, because I feel like this gave kind of like a not necessarily a blueprint to like a successful marriage or a successful relationship, but just really helping people that, the struggles and challenges are part of the journey, right?
Yeah.
It's not that we're trying to escape it and we're trying to like avoid it, but I think it's just a matter of, how we go through those things together.
Yeah. And everyone has their, like you said, everyone has their own journey.
Yeah.
So like you're all, for sure.
Well, thank you for joining us on Loud Snackers. We hope to see you again. And big applause for SooJin Hong Kim.
Thank you. That's so weird.
Hong Kim. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
That almost sounded like the...